World War II was a conflict defined by strategy, firepower, and sheer numbers. Tanks rolled across fields, artillery pounded enemy lines, and millions of soldiers risked their lives every day. Yet, amid all this destruction, a secret U.S. military unit was quietly preparing to fight a war unlike any other. This unit would not wield rifles or cannons. Instead, it would wield art, sound, and illusion as its weapon. This was the story of the Ghost Army, an extraordinary group of artists, designers, and actors whose mission was to deceive Hitler's generals and alter the course of battles through creativity alone. In 1944, as the Allies prepared to liberate Europe, military strategists recognized a critical problem. Conventional troop movements were predictable. If German commanders could anticipate the locations of Allied forces, they could strike with devastating efficiency. To counter this, a bold experiment was proposed, a unit trained not for traditional combat, but for deception on a massive scale. Thus, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, later celebrated as the Ghost Army, was formed. Its members were carefully selected for their skills in art, theater, and design. Painters, sculptors, sound engineers, and actors traded their civilian tools for the means to mislead an entire enemy army. Their training was unique and rigorous. Camouflage techniques, decoy construction, sound manipulation, and the study of perspective and shadow became essential skills. Every detail mattered. A poorly painted shadow or a misaligned decoy could expose the ruse and place soldiers in mortal danger. Unlike any other military unit, the Ghost Army's weapons were intangible, yet profoundly effective. Their most iconic tool was the inflatable tank, sometimes called the rubber Sherman. These massive decoys could be deployed in open fields, on hillsides, or behind forests. From the air, they appeared indistinguishable from real tanks. But the Ghost Army's ingenuity didn't stop there. Sound trucks, equipped with recordings of marching troops, engines, and artillery fire, were positioned strategically to simulate the movement of entire divisions. Engineers calculated the terrain to create realistic acoustic illusions. The result was an army that seemed far larger and more threatening than reality. Camouflage artists elevated deception to an art form. Decoys were carefully painted with shadows and highlights to mimic real vehicles under varying light conditions. Tracks were etched into the dirt, dust clouds simulated, and fake command posts erected. Soldiers staged movement drills, acted as generals, and transmitted fake radio messages to reinforce the illusion. Every operation required meticulous planning. Enemy reconnaissance patterns, aerial surveillance, and photographic angles were analyzed to ensure that every detail would withstand scrutiny. Unlike traditional warfare, which relies on brute force, the Ghost Army relied on psychology, perception, and creativity, and the stakes were no less real. The Ghost Army's missions were daring and ingenious. One of the most notable took place before the Battle of the Bulge. The Germans were eager to locate and strike at the largest Allied concentrations. The Ghost Army deployed a Phantom Division, complete with inflatable tanks, wooden artillery, and sound trucks broadcasting the rumble of engines and marching troops. German reconnaissance aircraft detected the division and reported a massive Allied buildup. Consequently, German forces diverted attention and resources to counter a threat that didn't exist, allowing real Allied troops to maneuver freely and strategically. In another mission, a small French village became the stage for an elaborate ruse. Inflatable tanks lined the streets, fake command tents were erected, and soldiers acted as officers, creating the illusion of an entire Allied base. German forces approached, expecting a heavily defended position, only to find the village empty. These operations not only misled the enemy, but protected real soldiers nearby and saved countless lives. The men of the Ghost Army were extraordinary. Recruited from art schools, theaters, and design studios across America, they had to adapt rapidly to the realities of war.
Painters, sculptors, and sound engineers found themselves creating battlefield illusions under enemy fire. They painted decoys, rehearsed sound sequences, and analyzed enemy reconnaissance, blending creativity with strategy. Life in the unit was intense and unusual. Soldiers often worked long hours perfecting the smallest details of deception, improvising props from local materials, and collaborating to maintain the illusion. Humor, ingenuity, and camaraderie became essential, helping them endure the constant pressure of operations, where one mistake could prove fatal. Despite their critical contributions, the Ghost Army remained largely unknown for decades. Their missions were classified, and public recognition did not come until the 1990s. Yet their legacy is profound. The unit demonstrated that creativity could be weaponized, and that psychological operations could shape the battlefield as effectively as traditional firepower. Modern military deception strategies, using decoys, misinformation, and controlled perception, owe much to the pioneering work of these soldiers. Their story transcends the battlefield. It is a testament to the human ingenuity, collaboration, and the extraordinary ways in which imagination can influence reality. Ultimately, the Ghost Army reshaped our understanding of warfare. They proved that the mind could be as potent a tool as any weapon, and that sometimes victories are won not through destruction, but through deception, creativity, and daring innovation. Inflatable tanks, cardboard artillery, and sound recordings became instruments of strategy, while artists and performers became unsung heroes of the Allied war effort. Their operations saved lives, diverted enemy resources, and contributed to the liberation of Europe, all while remaining cloaked in secrecy for decades. The story of the Ghost Army is not just a tale of military ingenuity. It is a celebration of creativity, courage, and unconventional thinking. In a war defined by destruction, these soldiers used art, sound, and theatrical skill to outsmart a formidable enemy. They remind us that intelligence, strategy, and imagination can be as decisive as firepower on the battlefield. The Ghost Army, once hidden in shadows, now stands as one of the most fascinating and inspiring examples of innovation in history, proving that sometimes the most powerful weapon is the human mind itself.